Hello and welcome to Rose Connections. My name is Janet Rose and I am the owner, the host, whatever you want to call me. And this today I am offering some radical reflections today. And so this is one of a series of videos that you're going to see over time, just as realizations come to me. Specifically, radical reflections has to do with sort of climbing your own mountain, figuring out your own content, who you really are, and allowing that to shine for the world and allowing that to reflect back out into the world for others to see. So today's topic, and the best way for me to teach is through my own narrative, through telling my own stories, right? So today is about the fact that I don't want to be an attorney anymore. It feels radical to say that. It feels freeing to say that, but it also feels scary to say that. And the reason why I wanted to focus on that today, because it is about finding that authentic truth and finally letting go of these old structures and old beliefs and old values and frameworks that have been driving our lives for so long. For me, being an attorney has always been one of those things. It's one of those things that I wanted to be an attorney ever since I was young. And by young, I mean like 6, 7 years old. Not even necessarily an attorney per se, but justice mattered a lot to me as a kid. It mattered a lot to me growing up and as a student and as an activist later on in life, obviously. And soon I'm going to be starting to call myself a former social justice attorney. And the reason why I'm leaving law right now, and I'm not leaving it entirely, I'm just going on inactive status. I won't be practicing law anymore or able to practice law until I put myself back onto active status at some point, maybe ever in the future. And I am really happy that I'm making this decision, in part because I've had some realizations over the past month that the practice of law is no longer for me. That's just not my gig. It's just not my thing. I went to law school. Yes, originally I wanted to be an attorney as a kid, but as I grew, as I got through high school and college, one of the things I realized is I wanted to be an attorney in order to write better laws. I wanted to write better laws so that we had less need to litigate these things. So we had less need to do the finger pointing and the blame game and all of these awful patterns that I've seen in humanity throughout all of my studies. And I wanted to be someone who could improve things through using law strategically, through writing things that are more clear, that are more equitable, that are more sustainable. Though that's the basis of everything that I try to post on this channel right now. So it's important for me to share with you all why I'm making that decision and why I call it a radical reflection. When I originally went to law school, I remember the very first day of law school. They said, right now, whatever book you have in front of you right now, open it up and write down, I went to law school because, and answer that question. If it takes a full page, it takes a full page. If it's just a sentence, it's just a sentence. But you need to remember the reasons why you're here, because we are going to do our best to train you to think like an attorney. And when we're training you to think like an attorney, sometimes that means we turn off your heart so that all your power goes here for all the logic necessary to be an attorney. And I took that assignment very seriously, probably more seriously than some of my cohort did. And that became a touchstone for me throughout all of law school. Every single time law school got hard, every single time I got called on in class and I didn't know the answer, or I underlined the wrong the wrong relevant law or relevant facts or something like that, I always went back to, I'm trying to become an attorney so I can write better laws. And so I'm just trying to understand the law. I'm just trying to understand how these things came about, what are the priorities, and how do we fix things? How do we fix the world? And remember, I was going to law school during 2001, so this was during September 11th. September 11th happened a few weeks into my second year of law school. And so everything that we were seeing with the Patriot Act, I was on the board of the ACLU at that point. I was the representative from our law school for the ACLU and the president of the ACLU on campus. And a position I fell into, by the way, I did not ask for that. Um, but it was meaningful to me because we were going after these big picture concepts. It wasn't just about this case or that argument and that neighbor and that business owner or whatever. It was about a larger concept of who we are as a people and what are our values as a society. And I always found it funny because in law school, they would say, the policy argument is the weakest argument. And I agree from a lawyer's point of view, that's exactly right. But the policy argument for me is always my main argument. That's my main toolbox right there. And it's being dismissed as irrelevant. And of course, I don't believe that it's irrelevant. But throughout that time, all 3 years of law school, and I had some incredible, amazing friends who are incredible, amazing attorneys today. And I would not have gotten through law school without any of them. But throughout all of law school, the pressure to conform was so big. The pressure to compete was so big. The comparison, you were ranked in your class and you got interviews based on where you were ranked in your class. I was in the top third of my class, sometimes depending on the count, depending on the year, whatever, I might be a little higher or lower, but I did graduate, I think, in the 22nd percent of my class or something like that. So I didn't do badly in law school. I did pretty well, actually. And considering that I was going for a second degree, I was trying to get a master's in public policy at the same time. I think I actually did rather well. But the few times that I did try to be an attorney, including being a student attorney, did not go so well for me. And it didn't go well for me. And I remember this having a mock trial for my child advocacy clinic. And I was a guardian ad litem, and I had to cross-examine some witnesses. And I remember asking them open-ended questions because I was just genuinely curious. I want to know, please tell me the truth. Tell me everything. And that's who I am as an individual. And they told me, please never be a litigator. Don't ever be a litigator, because that's not the strategy you want to use for cross-examination, for example. And there's a bunch of attorneys who might be watching this like, but that's why. Like, that proves to me that I didn't need to be an attorney. That was never going to be my method of making social change happen. And being an agent of social change, being an agent of change in general, has always been my thing. Being an agent of love has always been my thing. So how do you do that and being an attorney at the same time? There were a few traumatic things that happened too when I was both in law school and much later on in life, including each time I took the bar exam. And I had some realizations over the past month that reminded me that no matter what I do in the practice of law, there's that trauma that's connected in there with it. And that trauma, very ironically, also has a lot to do with professional bias, with professional humiliation and hazing that is pretty common in our profession. And by hazing, I don't mean like frat boy hazing, but I do mean I'm going to call you out in court for the next 10 minutes because you know what, you need to learn a lesson. And we do those things to each other, and we get this passive aggressive voice that gets going in our legal documents and whatnot, and we throw our weight around, and that to me is literally the opposite of what I'm trying to create. It creates more and more separation, and that's not what I'm here to promote. I'm here to promote unity. I'm here to promote us taking care of one another and owing a duty of care to one another on a deeper level than our law allows us. Our law does not adequately protect victims of domestic violence. Our law does not adequately prevent sexual violence or the use of past sexual history when trying to convict someone who has offended against another. So for me, there's just a lot of things that are kind of icky. about it that just don't resonate. And yet there was the part of me that's like, I have to put up with this because, my calling is to do this and I have to be an attorney in order to do that. Being an attorney is such an advantage. I gotta stick it out. I gotta just push on through. And it took a mental health emergency for me to recognize that just pushing on through was doing me more harm than good, and was threatening the very message that I'm here to bring. It was reinforcing and pushing me back into programming that says that we're all separate and that we can maybe be superior over one another. There are winners and that there are losers. That's just not the world that I want to create, and that's just not the world I'm here to live in. So sometimes those, and I remember when I had that realization, and I recognized, oh my God, I've been pursuing this all this time because I felt like I needed to prove something. I needed to prove something to all those people in law school, or that career counselor who told me I could never become an attorney because I wasn't smart enough, or that person who says that, I'm too soft to be an attorney, or that person and that person and that person. I always was trying to prove something to other people. But worst, I was trying to prove something to myself. I did not pass the bar exam the first 2 times I took it. There were reasons. There were legitimate reasons. One of them being pregnant was my first year. The second time I was trying to finish that master's in public policy. And so when I did finally take it, I took it for my own reasons. I took it because I wanted that to augment what I could do as a mediator. I wanted that to augment what I could do as a peacemaker. It did not end up helping me make any peace. In fact, it only brought on more and more anxiety for me. I constantly was feeling like the boundaries and the walls were constantly closing in on me. And I pushed away that anxiety because that's what the programming tells us to do, right? That's what we are taught to do. We're taught, well, that's just your problem. When in fact, it's burnout with the profession as a whole. And the profession has issues, okay? And there's many amazing attorneys out there, and I have so much mad respect for you for everything that you do. But I am not in that same space, and I don't have that same love for this that you guys do. I have a love for our value system in terms of, equality and equity, and I care about those big concepts, but I'm not attached to filing briefs or representing one individual person or one individual group or one individual cause. I'm just broader than that. And someone said the other day, you've outgrown the law, and that feels right for me. And so for me, and the other thing that happened is one of those same people not only said that I outgrew the law, but that I was brave for telling people about having had a mental health crisis, and that was a cause for me to leave this profession right now. It doesn't mean that folks who are really sold on this profession are doing badly or that they're stuck in old programming or anything like that. It just meant that it wasn't right for me. And it is courageous and it is radical to recognize when you have spent 17 years of your life pursuing something that was only meant to be this much of your life. It has become this much of my life and this much of my heartache and my anxiety. And so by cutting it out, I felt like I was losing a giant piece of myself in the process. And in the end, that piece needed to be gone in order to be able to welcome in new experiences. So the lesson today is in the pursuit of radical reflections, in the pursuit of authenticity. Question everything. It's okay. And it's okay if you lose something that has been a dream since you were a kid, because we all grow and we all develop and we all change over time, and our experiences help form us into new, better, higher people than we were before. And it's okay to let go of those old things if they are no longer serving you. So hopefully you will see a new video from me within the next 2 weeks on topics related to radical reflections or relationship reboot or radiant resilience. And I am also going to be starting a new program with my partner, Ted. Ted Morris is a former therapist, has some experience working with folks in criminal justice backgrounds and community mental health. And so we're going to be talking about the balance between divine masculine and divine feminine. And so this is part of the new piece of what you're going to be seeing from me and the new non-attorney Janet and what that looks like. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting. And you can find me, information on how you can find me is down below, and I will see you again soon. Take care.